there's other things that we can do with Houdini. Now, if you're working in Windows or Linux, you can easily hit this help key, and then the Houdini help will come up. On this version of Macintosh, I have to set something in my operating system to fix it, so I actually need to go to, I found the default location of the help online, so I can't use the middle or the right mouse click help, which right now it's frustrating. But I can find things, and what I want to do is I want to find help for this primitive SOP. So from the side effects website, I'm going to go down to the nodes, and we're in surfaces nodes. Remember, we were editing geometry, and I call that SOPs, surface operators. So here they're called surface nodes, and so here they're using the word nodes, but you'll see the word operator sometimes. And this is explaining. And then down here below, it gives us this, okay, so up here at the top, it explains what these different buttons are, the input, the output. Inputs are on the top, outputs are on the bottom. The display flag, the bypass flag. And we're going to go down to primitive. And so this is the help for this specifically for that operator. So you want help for that guy, you can find it right here. And I'm going to jump all the way down to the bottom, close to the bottom, where it's called local variables. Okay. Now local variables is our numbers that we can use are variables, so we can use these names, PR, NPR, PT, NVTX, CVX. We can use these specifically in this operator. We might not be able to use these in another place, maybe, but not guaranteed. And here we can see that we already have this variable being used. Now, in Houdini, it's kind of like Perl programming language or some programming languages where if you have a variable, it starts with a $sign. So the $sign means it's a variable. And in some programming languages, they do that. A variable starts with a $sign name. So CEX, CEYCZ. And here, it's the centroid of the primitive or profile. Profile is like a line or curve you've extracted. Okay. Primitive, so and it means each one of these individual polygons. So each one of these individual polygons, it knows where the center is, and so that's why when we do a rotation, each one is rotating around its individual center because it's finding that. So the cool thing about this operator is that it's looking at each one of these individual guys and then doing something about how to modify it. And we'll look at a lot more of these in a lot more detail later, but right now I'm going to use the $PR, the primitive number. So that is the same number that we see here, the 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that number. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this to 45 degrees. That's like a back slant. And here I'm going to put $PR for the Y rotation. And what it's doing is that it's rotating each one of these primitives by the number. So this one is rotated 0 degrees. Okay, I want to look for a top view. And an easy way to get only a top view is, once I'm here in a viewport, hit space 2, and I get an orthographic top view. So I'm looking straight down like from a top camera. It even says top camera right there. So primitive 0 rotates 0 degrees, primitive 1, 1 degree, primitive 2, 2 degrees, primitive 3, 3 degrees. So primitive 15 is moving 15 degrees. And you notice that once I put the $ thing in there, the box turned from black to green, at least in my interface. And if I want to multiply that, let's say I'm going to multiply that by 2, I just put times 2, and it looks up every individual one and moves every individual one times 2. So, and if I do like times 5, okay. So right now I'm not doing any animation. I'm just doing modifications of the geometry, but I'm editing my parameter values. And so normally when we look at translating things or moving things in these parameters of our software, we just have this one thing to click. But in Houdini, we can actually type mathematical formulas in here. So this is a really simple mathematical formula that we have right now. And I can even add animation. So I'm going to put $F. Now $F is a special variable for the frame number. So when we play our animation, whatever frame number, it's going to add that to that number. So if I hit play, it's taking the position of each variable, of each primitive, and then adding the frame number. Now there's no place where I can see that number for each one of these guys unless I hide that number somewhere else, and then there's actually a way where you could do that, which I could show later. But right now I don't know what exact angle each primitive is moving. I can't middle click here on it and find out which each one is moving, but there is a way that we could hide that information somewhere. Okay. Now, one of the things is that when we have this, I've done animation here, I have this facet stop and I have this grid. What we have here is like a little factory where we start off with a grid. I'm going to go back to perspective view, and to go back to perspective view from the top view, I could either go up here and pick my view perspective down here, or I could hit space 1. Space 1 is the easiest one. So space 2, top view. You could try space 3, space 4, space 5 is UV view, but it don't look like much. So space 1. Okay. So first we start with a grid, and then the second thing we do is we do a second process. So this is like the second stage in our manufacturing plant. And then the primitive is the third stage in the manufacturing plant, where we actually did some simple bending on that. Now this keyframe is so I have a little bit of animation going on in here. If I took this and replaced that with the plus with a multiplication, then I'm going to get major thing. And because I'm multiplying this polygon number 0, for that polygon, that number PR is always going to be 0. So 0 times 0, 0 times anything times anything else is always going to give you 0. So that's why that first guy never moved. Okay. I'm just going to return that back to plus. Okay. So right now we have this little part of Houdini where space bar, left mouse button, click to move, where I have this little process of how something works. And let's say I'm going to have one more thing. So I'm going to go down to the bottom, and I'm going to transform TR. Okay. And I added a transform. So what I'm going to do is I want to move this vertically. Okay. Now these layout operators can get in all kinds of wacky. If you just click in the background and hit the L key, it'll straighten all those up. If you have like a few of them, and you just want to straighten up a few of those, you can hit Shift L and it will straighten those guys up. L key will do all of them. Okay. Now the transform I can use this to move these guys up and down. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you another useful thing of Houdini. Now remember this geo node, there's a 1 at the end of it. And that number can be useful. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in this weird word op digits. And that did nothing. Or it entered a number 1. What I'm going to do is hit op digits. So what I have is I have the word op digits, open parenthesis, quotation, 2 dots, another quotation, another close parenthesis. And now I have the number 1 still in there. Okay. Now what's going on here is this op digits is looking for the number of the operator. Okay. And so remember like this Houdini help, it talked about all these different nodes. It gave us node names. But then here op is referring to operator things, which is another name for the node. So that's why if you know the word node, you know the word operator, they all refer to these individual titles. Okay, so op digits just means that it gives us the number at the end of the name of the thing. And the single dot gives us the number off the operator that we wrote the expression into. So I wrote this expression into this operator. So if I change this number to be, let's say, 3, and I just left click here between to either show me the expression or show me the value, it put in 3. If I change that to be 5, it put in 5. If I put that to 1, it gives me 1. Okay. Now I'm going to click this left mouse button, click here, and I'm going to put in 2 dots. And so not that, 2 dots. Okay. Now that's going to give me the number of the level above. And so the level above is this Geo1 up here. Now if I click up here, I just went up. Okay, there's my Geo1 object. Now something really cool is going to happen is that if I make a copy of this, it automatically gave me Geo2. If I make another copy, it's going to be Geo3. If I go into Geo3, here, that number there gives me number 3 because it's looking up at that number there, Geo3. Okay. And so I can do a lot. I'm going to go ahead and delete these guys. I'm going to go back to Geo1 and I'm going to make some modifications to the primitive SOP. I'm going to have this be digits and I'm going to do op digits times 2. Okay. Now from your high school algebra or pre-algebra, you know there's order of operations. It does multiplication before it does addition. So all these guys get multiplied together and then it adds the number on the end. And so I replace 5 with op digits, so it's going to look up here and just pick 1. So right now it's not going to do much because it's multiplied by 1. And then all that times 2. So I'm going to hit the up key and I'm going to copy that. And you notice that, turn off these things. Every one, there's a lot more rotation going on every one because this number is getting higher, this primitive SOP, this op digits. So let me go back here. So I'm going to just play this animation. And so the differences are a lot more obvious as it goes.